20 poor man, wilderness home base tricks that make $5,000 backcountry security setups look like a waste. A forest ranger named Thomas kept a journal in 1987. His entry from March 10th reads, "No expensive equipment in the woods will ever beat what you build with your hands and what you understand about the land itself." He was talking about something those 5 grand systems completely miss, and if you stay with me, I'll show you exactly what he meant. The one principle that makes all the expensive gear obsolete before you even open the box. Subscribe because this changes how you think about backcountry safety, and I'd love to hear in the comments whether you've already learned some of these tricks the hard way. Let's be clear about something first. Most backcountry setups that cost $5,000 are solving problems that don't actually exist. They're solving problems that gear companies convinced you to worry about. The expensive motion sensors, the satellite communicators with monthly subscriptions, the reinforced shelters that came pre-built. They all share one fatal flaw. They make you dependent on technology that fails. A single dead battery, a broken antenna, weather that knocks out signal. Suddenly your security isn't a system anymore, it's a liability. Wait, this part matters. Before you write this off as anti-tech nonsense, understand what I'm actually saying. The difference between a $5,000 setup and a capable wilderness home base isn't the number of gadgets. It's your knowledge of patterns, the way water moves, the animals in your region, how sound travels through different terrain, how light behaves at different times of day. That's what separates someone whose camp fails in week 3 from someone who thrives for months. And that knowledge, it's free. It's in what I've compiled in my complete wilderness security guide available in the description. This isn't just a checklist, it's the framework that explains why each of these tricks works, the principles underneath. You'll find it pinned in the comments too. Number 1 starts before you even choose a location. The camps that get discovered are discovered because someone else walked there first. The expensive security systems assume you've already picked a random spot and now you need to protect it. But the first defense is the choice itself. You need to think like someone searching. Where would they go? What makes a location seem appealing to another human? The obvious places, flat ground, near water, close to a trail, those are the death traps. They're the first locations someone checks. The secure locations are the ones that look wrong at first glance. High ground that seems steep. Water that's further than people want to walk. Access that requires understanding the landscape. A person wandering through the backcountry will pass within 50 meters of dozens of secure locations without seeing a single one. That's because you've chosen based on difficulty, not convenience. Number 2 is about what you don't build. Platforms get discovered. Cleared ground gets discovered. Anything that shows recent human work gets discovered. But work that looks like something else doesn't. A depression dug into high ground and roofed with branches doesn't look like shelter. It looks like a natural feature. The best camps use elevation as a vertical defense. You're not building up, you're digging down. Not dramatically, just enough to anchor a roof structure. Just enough that when someone walks past, their eye passes over it. Tree roots do this work for you. A spot where 3 trees create a natural pocket. A ledge where an overhang already exists. Disturb the minimum necessary. A camp that takes 3 weeks to build and leaves less visible trace than a day hiker makes is a camp that stays secret. Number 3 involves something people rarely think about. Fire management isn't just about staying warm, it's about visibility. A smoke column visible at 5 miles becomes a search signal. An expensive sensor system can't protect you from a mistake at the fire ring. So what do? Dry wood burns clean, wet wood smokes. Hardwood burns hotter without smoke. Softwood pops and throws sparks. Most people grab whatever's convenient. But the secure approach means preparing wood like you're running a hidden operation. Dead branches that have been drying for a year in the sun. Seasoned wood pulled from fallen trees that are already partially decomposed. A fire built inside a rock enclosure or under heavy tree coverage uses these materials and produces almost nothing visible. Zero smoke. Minimal flame height. Maximum heat output. This takes planning. It requires understanding your environment weeks before you need the fire. Number 4 is movement discipline. You leave traces constantly. Every time you walk the same path, you create a trail. Animals see it, people see it, rain follows it. So the secure camp means distributing your movement, rotating which direction you approach from, changing where you collect water, never using the same path twice consecutively. This sounds paranoid until you understand how easy trails are to spot. A single path used twice a week becomes visible within 2 weeks. But movement scattered across 8 directions becomes invisible. This requires mapping. It requires deliberate choices about where your water source is relative to camp, where your supply cache sits, where you process firewood. Every activity happens in a different sector. Your camp doesn't have a front entrance. It has no approaches. Everything around it is treated as usable space. The fifth element separates casual campers from people who understand the wilderness. Tools. Not a lot of tools, but specific ones. An axe isn't an option. A shovel isn't optional. A saw that works wet. A pruning shear for silent wood processing. The expensive systems count on having cordless drills and saws and prefabricated materials. But in the real backcountry, everything is manual. Your work pace is slower. Your efficiency comes from sharp tools and knowing exactly why you're using each one. A dull axe that takes 4 swings becomes an expensive systems equivalent of a camera that runs out of batteries. Fire management is number 4. Not starting a fire. Managing it. The difference matters more than most people realize. An expensive base camp setup includes propane heaters, multiple fuel sources, backup generators. That's infrastructure that needs maintenance, replacement, constant resupply. A poor man's approach is simpler. You build small, controlled fires positioned for specific tasks. A processing fire for heavy work. A warming fire for evening hours. A cooking fire set back from your sleeping area. Each one burns down completely before dark. Each one serves a purpose and leaves almost no trace. The person with $5,000 in equipment is feeding machines. The person with nothing is feeding flames that burn out on their own schedule. Water sourcing is number 3, and this separates the prepared from the desperate. The expensive setup includes filtration systems, pumps, backup containers, solar-powered purification. All of it complex. All of it capable of failing in cold weather or at elevation. The old approach is, position your camp near moving water, not standing water, not a stagnant pond, a creek with current, a stream that moves. Moving water self-purifies to a degree that most people misunderstand. It's not perfectly safe, but it's safer than what most modern hikers think. Before commercial filters existed, people camped near running water for centuries. You collect upstream from any activity. You camp where the water moves fast enough to generate white noise. That sound also masks your presence. It covers small movements. It becomes another passive defense layer without any cost at all. Hold on, I need to be direct about something for a moment. The real depth of these methods, the actual reasoning behind why they work, and how they interconnect with shelter design, positioning, and seasonal variables. That material goes far beyond what fits in a single video. The detailed guide on backcountry security and low-cost base camp design is in the description and pinned at the top. That's where you'll find the schematics, the positioning principles, and the specific water testing methods that separate survival knowledge from theory. Number 2 is territory awareness. And this is where psychology meets practicality. An animal knows its own land. A deer knows every path through the brush. A bear knows where the berries grow and when. A coyote understands the distance between den and hunting ground. They move through their territory with purpose and efficiency. A human base camp works the same way. You don't wander. You don't explore randomly. You know exactly where you walk, why you walk there, and what you expect to find. Expensive systems assume you might need cameras monitoring unknown perimeter. Poor man's approach is you never have an unknown perimeter. You walk your camp boundary every morning. You clear sightlines yourself. You notice changed branches, disturbed ground, animal sign. That daily ritual takes 20 minutes and costs nothing. It also means you spot problems before they become threats. A broken fence line. A tree that fell across a path. An animal trail that's starting to converge with your water source. The person paying $5,000 for monitoring equipment is waiting for an alert. The person walking their land sees the problem forming. And that brings us to number 1. The element that makes everything else work. The actual foundation beneath the entire poor man approach. It's not a tool. It's not a technique. It's decision. The decision to camp where other people don't. To build in a location that makes sense for survival, not for comfort. To pick terrain that's slightly harder to access, that's less convenient, that requires understanding. Expensive systems assume you'll camp anywhere you want, because the equipment compensates. The poor man's approach assumes your location itself is your first defense. High ground where water can still be reached. Dense tree cover that breaks up your heat signature and visual profile. Proximity to resources but not visibility from main routes. Distance from obvious camping spots. You're not building where others would naturally camp. You're building where others wouldn't think to look. That decision multiplies every other element on this list. Fire management becomes more secure because you're already hidden. Tool efficiency increases because you're positioned near your resources. Territory awareness deepens because you understand the specific vulnerabilities of your ground. $5,000 gets you false confidence. It gets you complex systems that need power, maintenance, and regular checks. It gets you alerts when something's wrong but no actual defense against it. $20 gets you gravel, motion lights, and a dog bowl. $100 gets you the planning, tools, and understanding that turns a wilderness base camp from a collection of equipment into an actual secure position. The difference isn't the money, it's recognizing what actually stops threats versus what just documents them. Number 10 is about reading your own ground like you're casing it yourself. Walk the perimeter at dusk, not to admire it. Walk it like you're looking for the easiest way in. Check which trees hang over your shelter. Find where water runoff creates natural paths. Identify dead zones where you can't see approaching movement. Most wilderness campers never do this once. They set up, they settle in, and they assume the forest works the same everywhere. It doesn't. Your specific patch has weak points. Shadows pool in certain places. Wind flows down certain corridors. Animals follow established trails. Predators use the same routes. A single walkthrough, taking notes, transforms what feels like open wilderness into a map of actual vulnerabilities. Then you adjust. You move the sleeping area out of the wind funnel. You clear brush that creates a blind spot on the north side. You position your water cache so you're not exposed during collection. You do this without expensive equipment. You do it with observation. Number 9. Stops problems before they arrive. Maintain a boundary that's obvious to anything approaching your camp. Not fencing. That's expensive and you can't carry it. Cleared ground. 2 meters in any direction from your main shelter. Rake and clear every stick, every dense patch, every head-high brush. Make it uncomfortable to move through. An animal or person approaching will instinctively use the easier path. That easier path is your warning system. Anything crossing cleared ground creates noise and movement you'll see. This is why indigenous camps were always in open areas near water, not because it was comfortable, because it was defensible. You see threats coming. You hear them before they're close. Modern campers hide in dense forest looking for shelter and peace. You sacrifice both. Clear ground gives you time. Before we go deeper into the specifics here, I need to pause for a moment. This part of camp security is where most people disconnect from the practical side and start imagining Hollywood scenarios. They don't. Real threats to your wilderness position are boring. Opportunistic animal encounters, weather exposure, accidental discovery by other campers who might become problems. The complete breakdown of wilderness security protocols is explained in depth in the survival guide available in the description and pinned in the comments. That guide covers the psychological layers underneath these physical tricks, and honestly, that understanding is what separates people who camp safely for decades from people who get hurt, despite having all the right gear. It's worth getting into, because it changes how you evaluate every decision you make in the backcountry. Number 8 is about creating false targets. Keep some resources visible. Keep others completely hidden. Leave a small cache of non-essentials in an obvious spot near your shelter. Extra fuel, some dry wood, basic tools. If someone or something discovers your camp, they'll investigate that cache. They'll take the obvious things. Meanwhile, your water storage, your serious food supply, your shelter's interior, and any backup resources stay hidden in separate locations. This is how human theft patterns actually work. An intruder takes what they see and leaves. They don't conduct a search unless they're specifically looking for something they know is there. An animal will investigate obvious resources and move on. Both take the path of least effort. Give them an obvious path that doesn't lead to everything you depend on. Number 7 addresses the single biggest mistake in wilderness security: routine. Absolute, predictable routine. You wake at the same time. You collect water from the same spot. You move to the same areas for different activities. You return on the same paths. Anyone watching your camp for even 2 days will know exactly when you're exposed, when you're hidden, when you're armed, when you're vulnerable. Vary everything. Collect water at different times of day. Change which side of camp you use for different tasks. Shift your sleep position. Take different routes to gather wood. This sounds exhausting. It's not. Once it becomes habit. It's actually less exhausting than dealing with a security breach because you became predictable. Number 6 is about leverage points. In wilderness survival, leverage means understanding what actually controls access to your position. That might be a narrow valley. It might be a specific water crossing. It might be a ridge line. Once you identify the leverage point that controls movement toward your camp, That's where you focus your security effort. You're not defending your entire territory. You're defending the one or two approaches that matter. This is why military positions historically locate on high ground. Not because the elevation itself stops an enemy, because it controls the approaches. Your wilderness camp has leverage points. Find them, defend them, ignore everywhere else. Number 5 costs nothing, but changes everything about how you think regarding positioning. It's called dead space, and frankly, this is the part that still bothers me, because so many survivalists ignore it completely. Dead space is any area around your camp that an intruder cannot cross without being exposed. Create it deliberately. Thin your vegetation on approach routes. Remove fallen branches that could hide movement. Strip bark from dead trees so they stand out visually. The goal isn't to make your camp invisible. It's to make approach to your camp impossible to do quietly or unseen. A person coming toward you has nowhere to move without breaking line of sight, without making noise, without leaving tracks. Number 4 operates on timing rather than barriers. You're already going to be awake at certain hours. You're already going to be moving. Stack your predictability with vulnerability assessment. Check your perimeter when you're most alert. Do it during daylight if threats are nocturnal. Do it before dawn if daytime reconnaissance is the actual risk in your region. Match your security activity to when you can respond to what you find. Most campers reverse this. They check their setup when they're tired or distracted. They notice problems too late to react. You're shifting that window deliberately. Number 3 is the one that costs under $10 and performs like equipment worth hundreds. It's called a tripwire alarm, but the real version doesn't use wire. You use string, thin paracord, dental floss. You run it at ankle height between trees on your approach routes. Attach a small bell or a carabiner that will catch it and jingle. Anything that creates noise. The intruder doesn't know it's weak. They don't know it won't stop them. They hear it and they react. That moment of decision is everything. They either commit to being detected or they leave. Most choose to leave. The material costs you almost nothing. The installation takes 15 minutes. Your sleep becomes infinitely more valuable because you have actual warning now. Number 2 requires understanding threat priorities in your specific environment. Different regions create different dangers. Grizzly country demands different camp security than mountain lion territory, which demands something entirely different from human threat zones. Your second-tier defense must match what actually wants to violate your space in your area. Bears respond to food caching and noise deterrence. Mountain lions avoid places they can't use stealth. Humans avoid situations where they can't control information. Design your approach based on your actual threat profile, not generic advice from someone living in a different ecosystem. A device that's perfect for one situation becomes dead weight in another. And this is the secret I promised you at the beginning. Number 1 isn't a trick at all. It's a principle. Every defensive measure in wilderness camp security works because it creates friction. Not friction that stops someone permanently. Friction that makes them question whether this target is worth their effort. Friction that introduces variables they can't control. Friction that converts your camp from an easy target into an uncertain one. That uncertainty kills intent. A burglar in the city targets the house with no lights, no dog signs, no gravel, no alarm. He picks the path of least resistance. An intruder in the wilderness operates on the same logic. They will test your perimeter because they're opportunistic. They will leave the moment they realize you're not an opportunity. They'll find a softer target. Your job isn't to create an impenetrable fortress. Your job is to create enough doubt that they move on. Everything on this list serves that single function. Everything. Here's what matters right now. Take the 3 measures that match your actual environment and your actual threat. Implement them this week. Not all 20. Not elaborate systems. 3 practical steps that create friction. Layer them. Make them part of your routine. The difference between a camp that gets violated and a camp that doesn't isn't sophistication, it's intention. It's the decision to think like someone trying to breach your space and then designing accordingly. That's the entire game. Thanks for watching this far. If this approach to wilderness camp security clicked for you, subscribe and hit that notification bell so you catch the next one when it drops. Leave a comment too. What's the biggest security gap you've noticed in your own setup? I read them all. Take care out there.